Hello everyone and welcome back to another TF2 commentary, and today I want to talk about the Pyro update again. However, this time, after much analysis about the game's core mechanics, strategies, and competitive scene, I came to the conclusion on what could be done for the Pyro that would enhance the TF2 experience. But keep in mind, this is entirely my opinion from my experiences as and against Pyros. If you have a different opinion, comment below and tell me what you think. Let's start off with the biggest problem, weapons. The secondaries and melee with Pyro are great and it doesn't need changes, including a reserve shooter. I've never used it before, and when I did, it was hard and wasn't effective at all. Meanwhile, there's a flare gun where shots are much harder to hit but cause massive damage, or in the case of detonator or skirt shot, it causes a massive damage boost. All of Pyro's secondaries rewards him for relying on his aiming and timing skills and not just doubling one. His melee options vary from aggressive, support, and survival. Some of them needs rebalancing, like the sharp volcano fragment, where it's pretty much useless in any match except for medieval. And then there's a third degree, which is just a straight upgrade that never comes in hand because the backburner does a much better job at it. And then comes the Pyro's primaries, which are the biggest problem. The flame particles effects and hitboxes are just so goddamn weird that it just backfires most of the time. Some of the best examples where it backfires are high ping servers. I've joined matches on TF2 Center, and whenever I played Pyro, my 300 ping would make it useless because lag compensation makes you unable to hit particles and light people on fire or cause any damage at all. Sometimes even a 40 ping happens. People say it gives the Pyro a huge advantage, but I'm saying from experience, it doesn't give you an advantage, it just fucks you up really hard. Second is how the flamethrower works. If you're not aware, the Pyro's flamethrower has various hitboxes coming out of it that forms fire particles, and therefore the fire using the attack. But the problem is that it's very inconsistent and unreliable. The particles are not always seen, and what the Pyro sees is not the same as the particles others see, meaning that sometimes the Pyro will be attacking someone they don't aim for, or won't hit the player they aim for because the fire itself is not going where you're looking for. The easiest way to spot this is when fighting scouts, because even though you're looking at them and you can see the particles go through them, you're not causing any damage at all, because even if you see your fire touch them, it's not making contact because the actual particles are somewhere else. To see more of this, watch Whistling Pyro's video on the subject. He explains pretty well, even though he says it fucks the enemy, meanwhile it just backfires on the Pyro. This is actually why the Phlogistonator is my weapon of choice for competitive. It's just one big particle that is always in front of the Pyro, meaning that you don't have to calculate so much bullshit to land the flames. Maybe making the flamethrower's flames work like the flogs would be a step in the right direction. Also, weapon stats. The Degreaser is now more of a defensive weapon that is always taking care of the team. The Flog is an aggressive weapon to attack enemies up front, and the Backburner is an aggressive flanking weapon. The problem is that the Flog and the Backburner are too alike. I personally think that adding 35 switching speed to the Flog along with the penalty of afterburn less than half the time would be the best choice. The Pyro could survive better in front line since he'd be able to switch faster between his weapons and therefore not always having to be up close to the enemy at all times, but also punish him for dying since enemies will receive half as much damage after the Pyro dies or leaves the area, giving them a chance to escape. Meanwhile, the Backburner could give the Pyro 12% more speed but limit him to only 150 HP, making it a quick action class like the Scout, but being able to pinpoint various enemies or make a great defense for the team since you'd be able to kill the attacking team if they're not careful. Second problem is, what the fuck is the Pyro supposed to do? Because he varies from defense, aggressive, flanking, and no one knows how to answer it. I myself play flanking and very aggressively, but even then I'm not sure what I'm actually doing, because I'm just being nothing more than a multiple target spy. I personally think that Pyro should be focused as a generalist class so he can be defensive and aggressive at the same time, especially now with competitive scene being the next big thing in TF2. Because in my experience in competitive matches, my team could have done much better if one of the scouts or soldier went as Pyro, Pyro helps getting the team an advantage and push through the choke point since he makes the enemies weaker, and since Valve is focusing on 6v6 in maps of 5 CP and payload, Pyro can be highly effective in the right hands. We sure have good weapons for it, like the Backburner for defensive and Phlogistonator for aggressive. But then there's the Grizzer, which was both aggressive and defensive, but after it got nerfed, it just became nearly useless for such environment. The third and honestly the worst problem to me, the community. I don't get the community of the game. They're always complaining about the Pyro, and it's never stuff that actually is a problem. After Burn is super overpowered, his flames range too far. Backburn is unfair and OP, Phlogistonator is a nightmare, Reserve Shooter's Devil's Work, and all of those craps. You heard all of those stuff already, and I've heard them all without the needs of hearing them. There's two sides on the Pyro. People either want him to be nerfed on the ground because he is quote unquote OP, or they want him to be buffed at God level because he's too cool. The community needs to get their shit together and actually discuss what would be good for the Pyro, because all they want is something that will make them super powerful in the game, and that's not how online game works. It has to be balanced enough so everyone can have fun with the class they love, and obviously if the player is good, they'll be OP. But that just means you're not good enough to counter them. I mean, the reason my strategy of flanking doesn't work very well in competitive is because everyone's aware of spies and always looking behind, therefore countering my strategy. But normally people don't look at their back, giving me the chance, and they blame the weapons and not themselves. Valve is not going to be able to please the community if all the community does is bitch about the class and not actually try to sort things out to fix it and make it enjoyable for everyone. In my personal opinion, leave the game as it is. Make some changes to the Pyro, but the rest just leave it as it is. Because from what I've seen in the community, no one is understanding the concepts of balance and how it should be balanced. I'm not saying I'm a perfect god either, because I myself have really shitty balance concepts. But I make these videos to get our opinion from the TF2 community based off mine so we can all reach a point of equality, because Valve won't be able to do much because the community themselves aren't taking their time to actually sit down and talk about the changes that will be good and what will be bad. And instead they just go like, Research Shooter Pyro, so shit had idea. Blah. With that kind of attitude, we won't get anywhere and the game will just go downhill. This is why TF2 Team should stop listening to the community for the most part and listen to big YouTubers and big competitive players that has played the game for so long and actually comment about it and understand how the game should work, instead of being the crybabies on Reddit, etc. Another thing the community is talking about is the fact that new players are quitting TF2 because it's broken and they can't get around to it. But let me tell you a story. 3 months ago I started playing the game after 4 years of absence. Of course, it was easy for me to get around with it because I was already into it. But back then, I met a random Pyro guy that sucked so bad I couldn't help but laugh at him. Now, 3 months later, I surprisingly met the same guy again, and apparently he saw me as an inspiration to improve as Pyro on TF2 because he still wears the same cosmetic I did back then when I first met him. And when we played a few days back, he would copy all of my strategies, and look, that is not every day you see a Pyro doing what I do. Even at some point in which I changed from Backburner to Flog, the dude did the same thing. My point here is that people that play TF2 for the first time are able to get into it and has fun doing so. I've met countless people months ago and watched them grow and become great players, and some even try and wear the same cosmetics and use the same weapons and strategies as me. But the thing is that I'm nice to everyone. Yes, I laugh at bad spies and complain about mobile dispensers, and yes, I definitely have a bind for whenever I get Neon Kill, but I take my time to teach new players and guide them in the match, and cover them because, as we all know, the game won't teach them how to play correctly. We will. It's the community's responsibility to teach themselves how to play the game. Of course, the game could well give some more info in basics, but about strategies, team composition, and best weapons, it's all up to us to teach these new players how to play the game, and the community is failing at doing so, and they try to stay proud by something embarrassing. I could go on about this for a really long time, but Ace the Ocarina Maker already made a video going deeper about that topic, so I definitely recommend you to check it out. Also important, what does all this I just said about community even has anything to do with the Pyro update? Simple, we're misleading both Valve and new players into doing these wrong decisions, instead of making both the game and community better. If people could make up their goddamn mind about games rebalance, then maybe Valve could do nice weapon set changes and even add new weapons. If veterans stop being assholes to new players, they maybe would have more players in the game, and perhaps Valve or other developers would give more attention to the game or the competitive scene. And that would do it for this video. I don't think I have any further comments about Pyro update. I'm very skeptical about it, because I don't think new weapons are needed for the Pyro, and I think everything is good as it is. It just needs some tweaks on the current weapons, and I think we'd be fine. But my thoughts won't change anyone's mind. But if you think I'm wrong, just comment below why, and perhaps we can discuss about what could be done for the game. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next TF2 commentary.